In a world of great struggle, 100 schools of thought contend, sects stand tall, and nations compete for power. Zhao Yu crossed over and became a branch of the Great Chu clan. The young emperor passed away, and in the court, the Empress Dowager engaged in a legal battle with the powerful officials. He was appointed as the new emperor by the powerful officials. At this moment, the Great Chu temples were imbalanced and the rivers and lakes were chaotic. Internally, powerful officials controlled the court with the intention of conspiring to usurp the throne. Outside, there are enemy Qin soldiers on the border, eyeing closely. Zhao Yu activated the system and summoned ancient Chinese famous officials and generals to this realm. So, those famous officials and generals, talented scholars and beauties, military and political strategies, and wonders of technology that have shown throughout the 50-100-year history of China were all transformed into cards, becoming the support of this new emperor of Chu. Zhengke, Emperor Wu of Song. Lu Yu, obtained the heavenly mandate of Dai Dai Xiongcai, Zhu Neiqing Wai, and Qi swallows thousands of miles. Chen Ka, one of the 4 generals of the Warring States period, was awarded the titles of famous officials Li Mu, Lian Pe, Wang Jian, and Bai Qi. Chen Ka, Spring Goes, obtained the Empress Dowager de Zhou and Empress Xiao Zhou. Sika, Parade and Garrison, greatly enhances the combat power of the Imperial Guards. Qi Card. The heavenly 9 cauldrons and 9 provinces, ding the world. In short, this is a story of the European emperor using card draws to fight against treacherous officials, pacify barbarians, reclaim their homeland, initiate reforms, compete for the great world, and ultimately devour the 8 wastelands, mixing the world and achieving unparalleled hegemony. Keywords of the novel. Starting from drawing cards to become the emperor without pop-ups, starting from drawing cards to become the emperor. Download the complete set of TXT, starting from drawing cards to become the emperor. Read the latest chapters. What about the system in Chapter 1? Help me. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What about the system in Chapter 1? Help me. Woo, woof, woof. The faint barking of dogs in the distance awakened Zhao Yu from his coma. Smelling the fresh scent of grass and trees in the mountains and forests, his thoughts gradually turned from confusion to confusion. If I remember correctly, he just took a nap in front of the computer desk while playing games. Why, he has already paid the rent for this year in advance, so the landlady wouldn't drag him out of the room and leave him outside in the middle of the night, would she? Opening his eyes, with the help of the unobtrusive moonlight, what he saw in his eyes surprised him secretly in his heart. At this moment, he is in a black pine forest. This Zhao Yu was stunned for a moment, and suddenly noticed that there seemed to be a damp liquid flowing down his head. Feeling somewhat uncomfortable, he instinctively reached out and touched it. Is this blood? Under the moonlight, Zhao Yu, who was startled, finally saw what the liquid on her hand was. At the same time, he finally felt the sharp pain coming from above his head. Accompanied by intense pain, there are also waves of memories that seem like raging waves. Zhao Yu, the eldest son of Zhao Qin, the Marquis of Anghua, was a member of the Grand Chu family. Just yesterday, the Marquis of Anghua and his wife took Zhao Yu out for an outing, but unexpectedly encountered an assassin intercepting them on the way back. The strength of these assassins is far beyond that of ordinary mountain bandits. Unexpectedly, all the guards of the Marquis' mansion, who were outnumbered by the enemy, were killed and scattered. Zhao Qin and his wife also died at the hands of the assassins. Only Zhao Yu, who had just performed the coronation ceremony, escaped under the desperate protection of the guards. Zhao Yu, on the way to escape, panicked and recklessly stumbled on a tree root, rolling down the mountain slope. Originally, it was time-traveling Zhao Yu, who had digested and absorbed most of her memories, finally understood her current situation and sighed helplessly. At the beginning, it's a hellish difficulty. If you can't pass the level in front of you today, then you can reopen it tomorrow. Well, this is reality, not a game, there is no chance to reopen. Woo woof. At this moment, the distant barking of dogs began to become clear and audible, and even Zhao Yu could hear vague cries. Zhao Xiaoho, don't hide. Come out and let our brothers escort you back to the west. In this way, you can also hurry to the Naiha bridge to reunite with the old Marquis and his family. Our brothers have also saved time, and we are all happy. If you come out obediently, our brothers can still give you a good time, if it were a mother. In law, then our brothers would catch you, but it would be difficult to die. Don't blame Grandpa. I didn't explain it beforehand. Among us brothers, there are still some who like Mr. Rabbit, while the young Marquis has delicate skin and tender flesh. Hee hee. After the shouting, there were bursts of laughter. However, the laughter in Zhao Yu's ears was as disgusting as it was. Yeah, the old man is a passerby in the hall. Even if he were killed, he wouldn't be a rabbit master. Otherwise, the old face of the traveler will be ruined by himself. However, Zhao Yu now only dares to curse a few words in his heart, making it impossible for him to speak up and fight back. He's not foolish, Zhao Yu. These assassins are just waiting for him to be provoked and expose his position when he starts cursing back. But unfortunately, this Zhao Yu is not that Zhao Yu. Zhao Yu lay in the bushes, breathing lightly, his eyes fixed on the direction of the barking dogs. No matter how the assassins shouted and insulted him, he remained silent. However, he made up his mind that when he had the chance to catch these bastards in the future, he would skin them, cramp them, and cut them to pieces. Otherwise, he could not avenge his parents or relieve his hatred in his heart. However, as she watched the flickering flames gradually appear at the end of her field of vision, Zhao Yu's heart sank instantly. With the keen sense of smell of those few puppies, it will be a matter of time before they find their hiding place. System. Zhao Yu called out in a low voice that only she could hear. What about the system? Help me. If you don't save him, Zhao Yu's travel experience card will expire soon. It seems to have sensed Zhao Yu's thoughts, accompanied by a crisp mechanical female voice, as rows of small characters in clerical script gradually appeared in his field of vision. Ding, system loading. Ding, system loading completed. Ding, the Emperor system has been bound. Successfully bound, obtain the experience card, Zhuofu Yubi, and receive one Emperor's little blessing bag. Finally here. Watching the lines of small characters gradually disappearing before her eyes, Zhao Yu breathed a sigh in her heart. Without the help of external forces, he did not believe that he could turn danger into safety and turn it into safety solely on his own. As the young Marquis of Angua Marquis' mansion, he is clear about the combat effectiveness of the guards in the mansion. Although these guards may not be as good as the palace guards, they are also composed of elite soldiers in the army, each with the strength of a third-grade warrior, making them easily comparable to ordinary soldiers. But under the surprise attack of these assassins, the guards who the old lord was proud of only lasted for less than half a pillar of incense before being killed and scattered. Even if these assassins relied on their numerical advantage, it was enough to demonstrate the strength of the opponent. The remaining light of his eyes swept over the gradually approaching flames, and Zhao Yu, who had restrained his mind, completely abandoned all distractions in his heart. He took a gentle breath and cast his gaze onto the experience card gifted by the system, Zhuofu Yubi. Blue, Chen Ka. Zhuofu Yubi, card effect. Obtain one random warrior and one random literary minister. Card instructions. Left assistant and right assistant, with doubts in the front and responsibility in the back. With countless opportunities in a day and dedication. Note. This card is an experience card. If the loyalty value of the summon general cannot be increased to 90 points or above within 1 year, the opponent will be disappointed and leave. Randomly labeled, they are all scams. Zhao Yu murmured in her heart. Roast belongs to roast, but at this moment, he has no right to choose. As for the final note, Zhao Yu selectively ignored it. First, shake the person to save oneself from danger, and then talk about loyalty or disloyalty. 1 year should be enough time. Not to mention bringing oneself a level of 10,000 enemies, even if it's Chao Bianjiao or Zhang Dingbian with such fragmented thoughts. Zhao Yu focused her mind on the blue card. I saw the bright blue light on the Zhua Fu Yu Bai card constantly shining, gradually disappearing, and the text on the card also underwent some changes. The card effect has changed from obtaining 2 random famous ministers, 1 civil and 1 martial, to obtaining famous ministers Zhang Xiu and Wang Pu. Zhang Xiu, styled Yue, was the nephew of Zhang Ji. He was a warlord who divided Wanqing during the late Eastern Han Dynasty and was one of the heroes of the late Han Dynasty. Force 84, Commander 82, Military Strategy 79, Political Strategy 65, Wisdom 78, Literature 45, Charm 76, Morality 66, Ambition 38, Age 21, Loyalty 81, Born in a humble family, Personality proud. Feature 1, Master and Apprentice. Master and Apprentice, Force plus 15, Wisdom plus 5, Dominance plus 5. Feature 2, Flying Bear Commander. When commanding cavalry, increases their combat power by 20% and their movement speed by 20%. Can train a special unit called the Flying Bear Army. When commanding the Flying Bear Army, it increases the full ability of Flying Bear soldiers by 25%. Feature 3, Northern Spear King. When using firearms in combat, increase your own strength by 5 points. Although Zhang Xiu's 6-dimensional attributes and characteristics can be considered good, compared to another one, they are somewhat lacking. Wang Pu, styled Wenbo. Famous officials from the later Han and later Zhou dynasties during the 5 dynasties period. His Pingdian Su is hailed as the 5 dynasties version of Longzhong Dui, which had a profound impact on the unified plan of the later Zhou and early Song dynasties. He was highly valued by Chai Rong, the founder of the later Zhou dynasty. He not only oversaw the planning of the expansion of Kaifeng City, but also revised the calendar and researched the music. The two of them knew each other and were promoted by later generations to be the top officials of the 5 dynasties. There is even a saying that, if heaven wants to rule the Song dynasty, it must first perish the simplicity. Song Taizu Zhao Kuanyin once said, if this person were here, would not be able to wear this robe. Force 69, Commander 74, Military Strategy 94, Political Strategy 86, Wisdom 87, Literature 75, Charm 85, Morality 78, Ambition 45, Age 35, Loyalty 84, Born in a humble family, Personality strong. Feature 1. When serving as a 3rd rank or higher civil servant, with a political strategy of +5 and wisdom of +5, the national tax revenue increases by 3% per year. When holding a military position of 2nd grade or above, the overall commander is +5, and the military strategist is +5. Feature 2, Great Construction. When Wang Pu served as the Minister of Works, the domestic construction speed increased by 3%, the number of craftsmen and construction consumption decreased by 5%, and the production of tools increased by 5%. After Wang Pu became a vassal, the magnificent architecture of Zhengkaifeng City could be built. Feature 3. The strategy proposed by Wang Pu is more in line with the actual situation and easier to be adopted by the monarch. Feature 4, Knowing the ruler and his subjects. After Wang Pu became a vassal, he and the monarch each gained 5 points in the 6 dimensions, reducing his lifespan by 10 years. Okay. Looking at the attributes of Zhang Xiu and Wang Pu, Zhao Yu secretly exclaimed the word, good, in her heart. Now he only needs to wait until one of these 2 people discovers his whereabouts, and there is a high probability that he can turn the tide. Under great joy, Zhao Yu decided to work hard and even more, to open the emperor's small fortune bag. Obtain the 3-star treasure. Silver Heart Protection Mirror. Silver Heart Protection Mirror, 3-star treasure. When you receive fatal damage, you can be exempted from it, and the damage will randomly change to light/serious. Usage: 3/3. This is a life-saving thing. Looking at the protective goggles in her hand, which were about the size of 2 palms and reflected a sparkling silver light under the moonlight, Zhao Yu was overjoyed. Starting from today, please call me Marquis Seal. However, the next moment, Zhao Yu's face suddenly changed slightly as she realized something, and her heart instantly sank to the bottom of the valley. If placed during the day, this light may not be particularly conspicuous, but in the darkness, it is simply a reliable guiding light. It's still the other parties. As expected, as Zhao Yu was worried, there were pleasantly surprised cries coming from the direction of the assassin in the distance. "Boss, look, what is that?" A sharp-eyed assassin saw a flickering treasure in the distance and exclaimed in shock. "I never expected that there would still be treasures in this wilderness. Boss, has that precious light disappeared?" An assassin shouted. "What's missing?" The assassin leader raised his hand and slapped his younger brother in frustration. "That's not a treasure in the world at all. It's a treasure from the Duke of Angua's mansion. Unexpectedly, it's in the hands of that delicate and tender little Marquis." At this point, he raised his hand and pursed the corners of his mouth, with a fierce light in his eyes. The upper authorities only said they wanted the lives of the 3 members of the Angua Marquis family, and used their heads as evidence. It seems that the treasures of this Marquis' mansion are going to be cheaper than the 3rd master of my horse. With this thought in mind, Ma San turned his fingers towards the direction where the treasure had just flashed. "That little Marquis is right there, everyone standing shoulder to shoulder. Seize him and I will personally go to the palace to pay tribute to everyone." Amidst the bushes, gazing at the rapidly approaching torch, Zhao Yu, lying on the ground, secretly complained in her heart. He never expected that, in a moment of carelessness, he would reveal his whereabouts. Whether it's Zhang Xiu or Wang Pu, come and save it quickly. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. The Gun King of the North, well deserved. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. The Gun King of the North, well deserved. On the official road, a carriage was bathed in moonlight, and under the protection of 3 knights, a crisp clattering of horse hooves was heard. Sigh. Suddenly, the silver-armored knight in charge pulled the reins in his hand, and the steed below hissed before stopping. "General Shao, what's wrong?" The other 2 knights approached the silver-armor knight and asked in a low voice. The silver-armor knight squinted his eyes and reached out to the side of the official road. "2 uncles, how could there be flames over there?" The 2 of them followed the fingers of the silver-armored knight and saw dozens of flickering flames between the mountains shrouded in night in the distance, even from a distance. "General Shao, it's important for us to hurry and not miss the main task." A knight frowned and whispered on horseback. Upon hearing this, the silver-armor knight was about to speak when suddenly his ears twitched and his face changed slightly. As a martial arts practitioner, the silver-armor knight's 5 senses have been greatly enhanced. Just now, he took advantage of the night breeze and vaguely heard the words, "Little Marquis," from the direction of the fire. The Marquis of Taihe Prefecture has no other family besides Zhao Qin, the Marquis of Angua. So this little Marquis must also be a figure in the Duke of Angua's mansion. Thinking of this, the silver-armor knight had no further doubts and immediately said, "2 uncles, you are here to protect your aunt. Xiu feels quite uneasy and will personally go there to explore. If nothing happens, she will come back soon. General Shao." The 2 knights exchanged a glance and opened their mouths to speak. At this moment, a 14 or 15-year-old maid jumped off the carriage and said to General Silver Armor. "General Shao, Madam asked the maid to come and ask, something happened ahead, why is it stagnant?" The silver-armored knight arched his hand to the 2 knights, rode his horse to the carriage, dismounted, and bowed in one go. "Embroidered my aunt. Yue, but what happened?" From the carriage, a soft and seductive female voice came out, and then the curtain of the carriage was lifted by a delicate hand, revealing a delicate face of a young woman in her 20s and 60s. This person is none other than Zhang Xiu's aunt, the surviving Zhou family. Originally, Zhang Xiu's uncle Zhang Ji had served under the Marquis of Anghua Zhaoqin. Zhang Ji had no children under his knee and treated his nephew Zhang Xiu as his own. He not only personally taught Zhang Xiu the art of warfare, but also spent a lot of effort to find a famous teacher to teach him martial arts. On his deathbed, Zhang Ji, who was grateful for the kindness of Marquis Anghua, called Zhang Xiu, who had returned from his studies, to his bed and instructed him to go to serve under the command of Marquis Anghua after completing his vigil. After 3 years of filial piety, Zhang Xiu and 2 old subordinates of Zhang Ji prepared to go to the duke's mansion of Anghua to serve. As she was about to leave, Zhang Xiu thought of how inconvenient it would be for her Aunt Zhou to live alone after she left, so she convinced Zhou to go to Taihe Mansion with him. "Auntie, it's like this." Zhang Xiu respectfully conveyed her ideas to the Zhou family. After listening, Zhou nodded and said, "Yue, you did the right thing. If you were a member of the Anghua Marquis' mansion, with this incident, you would also be able to enter the Marquis' eyes, which would be more conducive to standing firm in the Marquis' mansion. If not, you should do good deeds and accumulate virtue. With merit in your body, you can conquer the battlefield in the future and turn danger into safety. Go ahead, auntie, with your 2 uncles guarding you, there won't be any problems." Upon hearing these words, Zhang Xiu breathed a sigh of relief in her heart and once again bowed to the Zhou family. She stepped onto a blue-haired horse and galloped towards the flames. Uncle Zhang Ji regards himself as his son, Zhang Xiu also regards Zhang Ji as his father, and regards the Zhou family as his mother. If Zhou doesn't agree to go, then even if he doesn't want to, it's not easy to go against him. Watching Zhang Xiu disappear into the night, Zhou in the carriage twisted a strand of long hair and started playing with it, her gaze wandering in a pair of beautiful women's eyes. Anghua Marquis' mansion. If I could have a place in this mansion, then the school that was chased by those bald donkeys and ox noses in the north and had no way out may be able to establish roots in the Chu region in the south. The sound of horse hooves from far to near made Ma Laosan couldn't help but frown. "Did you accidentally pass by, or did you specifically come to them?" "Boss?" an assassin asked in a low voice. Ma Laosan waved his hand. "Take 4 or 5 brothers over and take a look, don't let them disturb our good deeds. Here." The assassin arched his hand and beckoned 5 or 6 brothers to turn around and run towards the sound of horse hooves. This young Marquis is quite capable of hiding. Tell the other brothers to hurry up. He spat out a heavy breath and ordered his subordinates. For some reason, Ma Laosan felt an indescribable restlessness in his heart. On this side, Zhang Xiu sat on her mount and looked at the few people blocking in front of her. She asked in a deep voice, "Why are you blocking the way? Kid, don't ask what you shouldn't ask. If you know how to behave, just turn around and get lost. Otherwise, Grandpa will recognize you, but he won't recognize you with his knife." An assassin said with a mournful expression. Upon hearing these words, Zhang Xiu's eyes flashed with a fierce expression. He is not a fool, this group of people are all covered in black scarves, and at first glance, it is clear that he is not a kind person. Combined with the 3 words, "little Marquis," she just heard, Zhang Xiu had a vague guess and her mind was spinning, but she made a decision in an instant. "I saw him lightly gripping his horse's belly with his legs, and a green-maned horse that was in line with his intentions rushed out of his crotch." Accompanied by a flash of cold light, the assassin led by him made a few hee-hee sounds and fell to his death, clutching his neck. Did this kid kill Lao Su? How brave! Kill this kid and seek revenge for Lao Su. No one expected that the other party would dare to take the lead. In a mix of shock and anger, several assassins drew out their weapons and cursed at Zhang Xiu, attacking her. Local chickens, tiles, and dogs. Zhang Xiu snorted lightly, inserted her long sword into its sheath with her backhand, and took down a small steel gun from the victory hook. With a twist of her hands, the small steel gun transformed into bolt-sized pear blossoms, covering the assassins in front of them. Puff! 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 The assassins only felt a pain in their foreheads, and in the next moment, their consciousness fell into boundless darkness. Zhang Xiu didn't even look at it and rushed forward, shouting loudly at the same time. "Little Marquis, don't panic, reinforcements will arrive immediately." Zhao Yu, who was lying in the bushes, finally breathed a slight sigh of relief upon hearing these words. However, he didn't know if the other person's words were true or false, perhaps it was to lure him out of his hiding place. Therefore, Zhao Yu did not make any moves and still lay quietly in the bushes. As it concerns one's own life, caution should be given priority. Damn it, what do Lao Su and his team do? They actually let the other party rush over. As he watched the people and horses constantly approaching here, Ma Laosan spat on the ground in hatred. "Lao Li, take your team and continue the search. The others, join me and take down that ignorant guy." With Ma Laosan's command, most of the assassins rushed towards Zhang Xiu under his leadership. Good time. Zhang Xiu's handsome face showed a bloodthirsty smile, and he shook the reins and whispered. "Kill." The blue-maned horse under its crotch seemed to feel the killing intent of its owner. As its four hooves churned, its speed suddenly increased by a fraction, and in the blink of an eye, it leaped forward by dozens of feet. Die for the young master. Zhang Xiu's tongue trembled with spring thunder, and her hands trembled. The pointed steel gun seemed to split into three, piercing out with a cold light. The three assassins who rushed to the front felt a blur in front of them, their throats painful, and almost fell to the ground at the same time. The child is so brave that he dares to kill the people under Grandpa's command. Seeing that the next encounter of the three hands resulted in their deaths, Ma Laosan was both shocked and angry. He leaped up and stabbed Zhang Xiu's face with his long sword. Lightness skills. People in the martial arts world. Zhang Xiu's face showed disdain, she let out a cold snort, twisted her right hand at the end of the gun, and the gun trembled lightly. Countless cold rays, carrying a cold killing intent, sprayed towards Ma Laosan who was flying towards her. Ma Laosan only blocked 3 or 2 shots, feeling as if he had been struck by lightning all over his body. His ugly face turned red, and his right hand, wielding the sword, trembled uncontrollably. He took more than 10 steps back in a row before finally removing the strength from his sword, feeling both shocked and angry in his heart. Where did this skilled killer come from? Yu Guang glanced at the hiding place of the young Marquis, and Ma Laosan felt a deep hatred in his heart. However, he knew that with this person present, he could not achieve all his goals. "Young man, you have the courage to meddle in the affairs of the palace. Humph, let's ride donkeys and read the singing book. Let's wait and see." Seeing things impossible, Ma Laosan made a decisive decision and flew back. "Withdraw. Did the young master let you go?" Seeing that the other party wanted to escape, Zhang Xiu snorted coldly. With her right hand, she hung the bright silver spear back onto the winning hook, and with her left hand, she took off the bull-horn bow behind her and held it in her palm. With a creaking sound, the bow opens like a full moon. Buzzing, the bowstring vibrated, and the arrows slid through the air, heading straight towards the heart of Ma Laosan. When facing each other, Ma Laosan saw that the other person was carrying a long bow and was wary of archery. Now that he heard the sound of the bow strings, he quickly turned aside to avoid it. He saw an arrow skip over his shoulder, and his heart suddenly relaxed. But the next moment, he only felt a pain in his heart. When he looked down, he saw a bloody arrow in his eyes. There was only one string sound. How could it be with such doubts? Ma Laosan's consciousness fell into boundless darkness. Is the leader dead? The other assassins were shocked to see their leader being shot in the opposite direction with an arrow. As the leader of the assassins, Ma Laosan's cultivation was 2 points higher than theirs, so he was easily solved by the other party. At this moment, these assassins were all disheartened and scattered like birds and beasts. Zhang Xiu bent her bow and arched, then shot several assassins before stopping. Even with moonlight, the view at night is still too poor compared to the day. Otherwise, at least a small part of these assassins would have to be entrusted to his Zhang Xiu. After killing and dispersing the assassin, Zhang Xiu just shouted loudly. Marquis, the assassin has been scattered by Zhang Xiu. Please show up and Zhang Xiu will escort him back to the Marquis' mansion. Zhao Yu, who was lying in the bushes, felt a sense of relief when she heard the other party's words. Thank you very much for General Zhang's life-saving kindness. You will never forget it. Zhao Yu emerged from the bushes and bowed to Zhang Xiu while speaking. The young Marquis has turned a curse on Zhang. Seeing the young Marquis of Anghua Mansion bowing to him, Zhang Xiu was so frightened that he rolled off his horse and only received half of the bow on his side. He will serve in this Anghua Mansion in the future. When it comes to relationships, the other party is the master, and he is a minister. Even if there is a life-saving gesture, he dare not accept the other party's full gift. How could little Marquis encounter assassination? Zhang Xiu asked while asking Zhao Yu to get on his horse. Ah, this matter is a long story. Talking about today's near-death experience, Zhao Yu couldn't help but blush in her eyes. Really, it's too difficult. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. What's the use of crying? Can we make the Marquis cry and not live? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. What's the use of crying? Can we make the Marquis cry and not live? I see. Please accept my apologies and accept my changes. Beside the carriage, upon hearing Zhao Yu's encounter, the Marquis' mansion was so shocked that Zhang Xiu's two uncles suddenly changed their faces slightly. They frequently signaled to Zhang Xiu with their eyes, but Zhang Xiu ignored them. On the way to escort Zhao Yu back to the Duke of Anghua's mansion, the two of them, with a worried expression on their faces, pulled Zhang Xiu to their side and asked in a low voice. Yu Wei, those who have the courage to take action against the Duke of Anghua's mansion are obviously not good people. Let's join in at this time. Is that? Although the words were not fully understood, Zhang Xiu had already recognized their meaning. Obviously, the two of them do not have enough confidence in the current Duke of Anghua's mansion. Two uncles, please listen to my nephew's words. Zhang Xiu glanced around and whispered. As the saying goes, adding flowers to the cake is easy, but delivering charcoal in the snow is difficult. Although the Duke of Anghua's mansion has suffered heavy damage, with the presence of the young Marquis, the backbone of this mansion is far from falling apart. My nephew has saved the young Marquis this time, and with this love, we can stand firm in the Duke of Anghua's mansion. As for joining another lord. At this point, Zhang Xiu shook her head slightly. Those assassins fled decisively, but my nephew was unable to kill them all. There were always those who could see my nephew's appearance clearly. We ruined the good deeds of the people behind the scenes, how could they not retaliate back? And the most dangerous thing is the safest place. If we were in the Duke's mansion of Anghua, at least there would be the Duke's mansion to support us. If we go elsewhere, who knows if the other party will take your and my uncle's and nephew's heads as a step forward. There is one more point that Zhang Xiu did not mention. It was Zhang Ji's last wish to serve in the Duke's mansion of Anghua himself. Zhang Ji regarded himself as his own son, and he could not ignore the wishes of his elders and only focus on his own life and death. This is not the work of a great man. Of course, if this young Marquis had no eyes and could not recognize his abilities, then Zhang Xiu would not hesitate at all when it was time to leave. With his crotch, horse, and gun in hand, where in this world can't he go? After listening to Zhang Xiu's words, the two of them pondered and finally nodded in agreement. By the morning light, the group finally arrived at Qingzhou City, the capital of Taihe Prefecture. The Duke of Anghua's mansion was located in the northeast corner of Qingzhou City. Young master, you have finally returned. By the way, what about Marquis and his companions? The butler Fubo, who opened the door, looked at Zhao Yu and a group of strangers and asked in confusion. He was feeling strange in his heart, it was just a youth trip. Yesterday, the Marquis and his group should have returned to the Marquis's mansion. Fubo, father and the others. Speaking of yesterday's experience, Zhao Yu felt sad from the bottom of her heart, and her eyes couldn't help but turn red. This elder, let the young Marquis enter the mansion first. It's better to go in and say some things. Looking at the people exploring around, Zhang Xiu arched her hand and said. Okay, Marquis, everyone come in. Seemingly aware of the seriousness of the situation, the butler Fubo turned to invite everyone into the mansion and immediately had the servants close the gate of the Marquis's mansion. In the lobby, after listening to Zhao Yu's words, both the butler and the servants showed signs of grief. Old Marquis Zhao Qin has a gentle and generous personality, and has always been kind to his servants. Therefore, the entire Marquis's mansion highly respects him. Now hearing that the old Marquis had been assassinated, everyone felt a sense of sadness and shed tears. What's the use of crying? Crying day and night, can we bring the old Marquis back to life from crying? Suddenly, a cold laugh came from the side of the lobby. Upon hearing this, everyone glared angrily, only to see a white-robed scholar sitting in a corner, holding a teacup and sneering at the crowd. Wang Wenbo, since you have come to the Marquis's mansion to apply for a teaching position, how can you speak disrespectfully towards the old Marquis? Fubo spoke out in anger. The scholar surnamed Wang just shook his head and didn't answer. Wang Wenbo. Is it possible that Mr. Wang is Wang Pu and Wang Wenbo? Zhao Yu's eyes lit up and he quickly arched his hand, asking. Does the young Marquis also know the name of Wang Pu? Seeing Zhao Yu say his name, Wang Pue was stunned and a surprised expression flashed on his face. To be honest, my father once said he wanted to find a gentleman for me. He said that the gentleman had a surname of Wang, a name of Pu, and the courtesy name of Wenbo. He had talent in governing heaven and earth, so I must treat him with the courtesy of a teacher. Zhao Yu stood up and saluted Wang Park while speaking. The young Marquis has broken his evil spirit. Wang Pu quickly stood up to pay his respects. Mr. Wang must have great talent for being praised by his late father. In such a situation, I wonder why Mr. Wang taught me. Seeing Zhao Yu's respectful attitude, Wang Pu coughed lightly and glanced at everyone in the hall. Zhao Yu waved his hand and asked the servants to step down, saying. There are no outsiders here. As the steward of the Marquis's mansion, Fubo is a trusted person of our ancestors. Zhang Yue is not afraid of sharp blades and saved me in danger. These two people are trustworthy. If Mr. Wang has any words, feel free to say them with confidence. Zhang Xiu, sitting beside Zhao Yu, finally breathed a sigh of relief upon hearing his words. My actions last night finally paid off. This young Marquis directly regarded himself as his confidant. As a result, in the Duke's mansion of Angua, I started out much higher than my uncle Zhang Ji. You should know that Zhang Ji did not break into the core circle of the Angua Marquis's mansion until he received a recommendation letter from the Angua Marquis Zhao Qin to join the border army. In the current situation, based on my perspective, the first thing to do is to seek mourning, the second is to report the death of the old Marquis to the court, and have the court issue an order for you to take over the title as soon as possible to stabilize people's hearts, and finally, to find the mastermind behind the murder of the old Marquis and others and avenge him. Wang Pu's voice echoed incessantly in the lobby. Upon hearing this, Zhao Yu and others couldn't help but nod. What Wang Pu said, although simple and unadorned, falls every sentence on the point. However, upon hearing Wang Pu's last sentence, Zhang Xiu's eyes twitched slightly and a thoughtful expression appeared on her face. Fubo, send someone to search for the remains of my parents outside the city, and at the same time, find a skilled coffin shop in this Qingzhou city. The coffin should be made of high-quality wood, and money is not a problem. We must give our father a grand funeral. Zhao Yu turned his head and instructed Fubo, as for the court memorial, we still need Mr. Wang's help to draft it. When it comes to playing a watch, he doesn't know how to draft it for a while when he's away from home. This is my responsibility. Wang Pu stood up and responded. Zhao Yu's gaze turned to Zhang Xiu on the other side and he spoke. Yue, I know you have exceptional martial arts skills, so I'll leave it all to you to protect the royal mansion. You don't have to worry about money and food. As long as you train a team of elite soldiers with 100 members within 3 months, it's possible to do it. Feeling Zhao Yu's gaze, Zhang Xiu felt a sense of a scholar dies for a confidant in her heart, and immediately clenched her fists and said loudly. The young Marquis looks up to Yue, and Yue should do his best. Ding, Zhang Xiu's loyalty +5, intimacy +200. Glancing over Zhang Xiu's slightly excited face, Zhao Yu nodded slightly. Do you have any clue about the mastermind behind these assassins? What was just said is very important, but it's far less important than that. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Who is the murderer? Seeking a plan late at night. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Who is the murderer? Seeking a plan late at night. As soon as Zhao Yu spoke, there was a sudden silence in the lobby. After a while, when Zhao Yu was somewhat disappointed, Wang Pu was the first to speak up. Little Marquis, have you ever known these old stories? Seeing everyone looking at him, the white-robed scholar slowly took a sip of tea before saying. At the beginning of the 10th year of the Daxing era, Duke of Dinghua Zhao Ning was poisoned and killed in the mansion. In October of the 12th year of the Daxing era, Prince Zhao Fuji of Hunan was assassinated on his way back to the mansion. In September of the 18th year of the Daxing era, Marquis Zhao Bing accidentally fell off his horse while hunting in the suburbs, and his medical stone died despite being ineffective. All of these are incidents of Emperor Suzong's reign. In the summer of the 5th year of the Ganlu reign, Duke Xiao Ting of the state of Tao passed away at the age of only 32. In May of the 9th year of the Ganlu reign, Prince Zhao Jia of Changsha accidentally fell into the water while riding a dragon boat. In the autumn of the 12th year of the Ganlu reign, Duke Xiao Chun of England was assassinated and died. All of these are related to the reign of Emperor Ming. In March of Huang Feng's 2nd year. Huang Feng is the reign title of this little emperor today. His Majesty ascended the throne at a young age, with His Majesty's birth mother, Empress Dowager Xuanda, and General Huang Jingming serving as regent. It has been 6 years since then. Mr. Wang, there's no need to say. Zhao Yu waved her hand to stop Wang Pu from continuing. The other party's words were like a morning bell, instantly awakening him a lot. Sitting beside her, Zhang Xiu opened her mouth and couldn't help but say, Little Marquis, before the thief's death, he mentioned the word inside the palace. Don't say anything. Zhao Yu waved her hand weakly. The words of Wang Pu and Zhang Xiu are almost clear. It is the representative of the current imperial power, the emperor sitting on the dragon chair, and the Empress Dowager standing behind the emperor, who wants the life of the entire family of Nguohou. Since the founding of the Great Chu dynasty by Emperor Taizu south of the Canglong River, it has lasted for 7 generations. The third emperor, Emperor Wuzong of Chu, suddenly fell ill during the northern expedition, but his treatment was ultimately ineffective. He passed away in the army at the age of 38, leaving only a young legitimate son under the age of 10. In order to ensure that the Great Chu regime would not experience too much turmoil due to his own death, when he passed away to the west, Emperor Wu of Chu chose the system of brother-to-brother succession instead of the system of legitimate eldest son inheritance, and entrusted the great cause of Chu to his younger brother, the 4th king of Great Chu, Emperor Renzong of Chu. The two had a deep brotherly relationship, and during the reign of Emperor Renzong of Chu, he took great care of his brother's young son. But with the death of Emperor Renzong of Chu, the next 2 emperors, Emperor Suzong and Emperor Mingzong, began to gradually distance themselves from the many royal families of Emperor Wuzong, intentionally or unintentionally. Not only did they gradually reduce the titles of the Wuzong lineage, but even more so, they secretly sent people to poison these lineages. During the nearly 50 years of the reigns of these two emperors, dozens of royal families in the Wuzong lineage have quietly fallen. Although some may have noticed some clues, no one dared to appeal to the world, let alone advise the emperor, fearing imperial power. Now that His Majesty has ascended to the throne, Empress Dowager Xuanda, who listens to politics from behind the curtain, has even reached a tacit agreement with General Huang Jingming, who controls the temple, in order to consolidate her throne and deal with the royal family. Over the past 6 years, not only the lineage of Wuzong, but even the royal families of Renzong have suffered from varying degrees of suppression and cleansing. It's not an exaggeration to say, the most poisonous woman's heart. Now, he also understood why his father, Marquis of Angue Zhao Qin, often sighed and looked sad. Originally, he had already realized these things. After his father's death, Yu was devastated and his mind was in chaos. I dare ask everyone, what should you do in the current situation? Looking at the crowd in the seat, Zhao Yu had a worried expression on her face and asked in a voice. I saw the butler Fubo frowning and pondering deeply, while Zhang Xiu frowned. Only Wang Pu smiled and comforted, saying, Young Marquis, it's pointless to think too much now. It's better to first handle the funeral of the old Marquis and report the assassination of the court, and then talk about other matters. Now, that's all there is to it. Zhao Yu glanced at Wang Pu and saw him smiling and nodding. He sighed and asked Fubo to prepare for the funeral of the old Marquis. After discussing the affairs, everyone dispersed. Zhao Yulin went out, but saw Zhang Xiu still sitting in her original position and not getting up. Yue, you've been working hard all night. It's better to rest early. Fubo has already asked the servants to prepare a room for you. Little Marquis, I feel that Mr. Wang has some unspoken words yet to be fully expressed. Zhang Xiu hesitated for a moment, but still expressed her intuition. I vaguely realized that it was the hand of the court, relying on the words of the thief Ma Laosan. And Mr. Wang, relying solely on clues, came to the same conclusion as himself, even more affirming in attitude, indicating that he is a person of great wisdom. How could such a person, without any confidence in their heart, take the initiative to join the Nguo Marquis' mansion in the face of great changes? Thank you very much, Yue, for your clarification. Zhao Yu looked at Zhang Xiu in surprise, but he didn't expect him to see this. It could only be said that it was his intuition as a general. In Zhao Yu's view, Wang Pu, who was able to leave behind the famous Pingbian Su in Chinese history, could not have been stumped by such a small matter as his own Marquis' mansion. At night, a figure came to Wang Pu's resting room and gently knocked on the door. As the door opened, Wang Pu looked at the person in front of him and arched his hand with a smile, saying, I didn't expect that the young Marquis would be so anxious and arrive so early. Zhao Yu walked into Wang Pu's room and smiled, saying, Day after day, I was lost in thought, confused in my heart and unable to sleep, so I came to ask Mr. Yu for clarification. However, Yu was a bit curious. I wonder when Mr. Yu thought I would come to visit. Wang Pu closed the door and asked Zhao Yu to sit still. Fong said, I thought that only after the Marquis' burial would the little Marquis come and ask me. Do you think Mr. Yu has a plan in mind? Zhao Yu asked in response. Planning depends on people, success depends on heaven. How can everything go as expected? Wang Pu said while brewing tea for Zhao Yu. Little Marquis, please. Zhao Yu drank the tea in one gulp and said solemnly. The affairs of the world are nothing more than human affairs and listening to fate. Would you be willing to teach me, sir, to dispel the doubts in Yu's heart? I have 3 strategies below, which are upper, middle, and lower. Would you like to hear them? Please teach me, sir. Zhao Yu stood up and left his seat, bowing deeply. Wang Pu slowly extended 3 fingers and said, the best strategy is to publicly reveal the inside story of the assassination of the old Marquis and inform the people of the world that the current emperor has unjustly slaughtered the royal family, which is not a good ruler. Afterwards, he will rebel and attack the unrighteous. The middle strategy is to cultivate a strong and powerful army, secretly train soldiers, reserve talents and keep watch, and wait for the time to come. The bottom strategy is to offer Taihe to the army of Daliang to seek revenge for his family. After speaking, Wang Pu stopped talking and quietly sipped his tea, waiting for Zhao Yu's choice. Zhao Yu frowned and pondered for a while before speaking up. For you, although the best strategy is truly a way to relieve hatred, it is like taking a chestnut from a fire, which is really too risky. In the past few decades, there have been many Zhao family clans that have been assassinated, but not a single person has rebelled, which is evident from this. Yu is a member of the Great Chu royal family, born as a Chu person, and died as a Chu soul. He offered Chu land to seek personal revenge, which was not done by the Zhao family. I hope you will not bring up this plan again in the future. In Yu's opinion, there may be a feasible solution, but please clarify, what is the timing? Seeing Zhao Yu give up the upper and lower strategies and choose the middle strategy, Wang Pu felt quite happy in his heart. Since ancient times, when a ruler chooses a subject also chooses a ruler. These two strategies are more of a test of Zhao Yu's character by Wang Pu than a strategy. Now it seems that the other party's answer has left him extremely satisfied. And Zhao Yu's final question made Wang Pu extremely satisfied. This young Marquis clearly grasped the most important point. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Plans unable to keep up with changes. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Plans unable to keep up with changes. However, Wang Pu did not explain to Zhao Yu what heavenly timing was, but instead asked with a smile. I don't know how little Marquis sees the general of Fuguo. Huang Jingming, the most trusted vassal of the late emperor. On the deathbed of the late emperor, Huang Jingming was promoted to the position of Grand General of the auxiliary country and entrusted with the important task of assisting his young son, who is now His Majesty Zhaoheng. Until today, the great power of the court has been in the hands of this auxiliary general for 6 years. Over the past 6 years, people from all walks of life have generously praised this person. Huang Jingming's character can be summarized in 4 words. A great traitor is like loyalty. Zhao Yu pondered for a long time before finally expressing his father Zhao Qin's evaluation of Huang Jingming. A great traitor is as loyal as a loyal one, and the young Marquis can be said to hit the nail on the head. Wang Pu's eyes lit up, and his evaluation of Zhao Yu took it to the next level. After these 6 years, the Grand General has already gained control of most of the court and the people, and coupled with her heavy army, it is not surprising that she has a strange ambition. Although Empress Dowager Xuanda also tried her best to weaken the general's influence in the court, she has lived in the Deep Palace for a long time and has limited influence on the previous dynasty. Now, Your Majesty's day of personal rule is approaching. In ancient times, the first thing that kings did after ascending to power was to eliminate their powerful officials. If the general does not want to be captured and wait for his death, he must take the initiative and take the action of abolishing the enemy. And for the young Marquis, this is the timing. After listening to Wang Pu's analysis, Zhao Yu couldn't help but nod, but still had some doubts. If Huang Jingming is good at abolishing the establishment on his own, this is the catastrophe of the Great Chu. Why does the master say it is the heavenly time of the young man? Wang Pu chuckled and said. Little Marquis, after 7 generations of experience in the Great Chu dynasty, people's hearts are fully attached. Even the most confident generals in the auxiliary country dare not take the throne and only dare to abolish it. In this way, the new emperor will have to choose from the royal family. Empress Dowager Xuanda's plot to assassinate the royal family has almost resulted in the loss of one royal family. The young Marquis has not yet passed the imperial examination, and the old Marquis's reputation has been enhanced. How could Huang Jingming not choose the young Marquis as the new emperor? Not yet COVID-19, indicating young age and easy control. If there is prestige, then when ascending to the throne, it can minimize the opposition from the court and the public. The most important thing is still the lineage of Wuzong, not the current lineage of Renzong. Zhao Yu's spiritual light flashed and she urgently asked. Isn't this the reason why the gentleman gave the young man talent and hope? Exactly so. Wang Pu nodded and solemnly reminded. At that time, the little Marquis will face the general of the auxiliary country. If we cannot eliminate the powerful officials in one fell swoop, then the future fate of the little Marquis. Please be prepared in your heart. It's just a quick strike from the left and right. Zhao Yu smiled freely. Jokes, if you can't win even if you have cheats, then you deserve to die. Shenjing, Xinang Palace. An elderly eunuch with graying hair, holding a brush, walked briskly to Empress Xuanda's side and whispered. Empress Dowager, there is a letter from Taihe Prefecture. Show it to the AI family. Empress Dowager Xuanda, who was teasing the lion cat in her arms, lazily said upon hearing this. Here it is. Opening the secret letter, Empress Dowager Xuanda, who was less than 40 years old, looked at what she had said in her heart and frowned unintentionally, snorting coldly. The Duke of Anghua and his wife were assassinated, and only their legitimate son was spared. The dark guards who went to Qingzhou city suffered more than half of the losses. Wang Lin, how did you do it? The losses were so great that there were even mistakes. The old servant is not strict with me, please forgive me, Empress Dowager. Wang Lin, who was standing beside her, saw the Empress Dowager getting angry and quickly knelt down on the ground, her forehead tightly pressed against the cold floor, afraid to lift a little. It's okay, get up. Empress Dowager Xuanda waved her hand and said indifferently. Considering that you have been serving in front of this palace for many years, I will not punish you. Let the Taihe mansion find an opportunity to make up for what you should do, and also, do not expose your identity. Don't worry, Empress Dowager. I'll go tell those useless guys now. Wang Lin kowtowed several times before standing up. At this moment, a palace maid with a face full of anxiety ran all the way into the Xinang Palace. As soon as she entered the palace, she knelt down in front of Empress Xuanda with a thud. Empress Dowager, something's wrong. I remember you were serving your Majesty's side, what happened? Empress Dowager Xuanda looked at the palace maid running out of breath, and a feeling of unease arose in her heart. Empress Dowager, your Majesty, he accidentally fell into the water while playing at Xuanwu Lake. What are you saying? Before she could finish speaking, Empress Dowager Xuanda, with her eyebrows on end, suddenly stood up from her seat and stared at the palace maid, asking. The palace maid glanced at Empress Dowager Xuanda, who was in a fit of anger, swallowed her saliva, and gritted her scalp, saying. Your Majesty, you stumbled and fell into the water at Xuanwu Lake. Although you have been rescued, you are still unconscious. That's enough. Empress Dowager Xuanda's face was gloomy, almost dripping with water. She waved her long sleeves and walked towards the outside of the Xinang Palace first. Let's go to Xuanwu Lake. The AI family wants to see who dares to harm your Majesty. Wang Lin, go and call all the old people from the Tai hospital over to the AI family. If your Majesty has an accident today, the AI family will not spare you. That night, according to rumors in the palace, more than half of the palace maids and eunuchs who were responsible for serving His Majesty were killed with sticks. Time flies, and in the blink of an eye, it has been more than half a month since the funeral of Duke Anghua. On that day, Zhao Yu was wearing a white morning gown and playing chess with Wang Pu in the backyard of the Marquis' mansion. Suddenly, Zhang Xiu hurriedly came to the two of them, holding a letter coated with fire paint in his hand. Marquis, Shenjing has sent an urgent report. As the ancestral office of the Zhao family, Zhao Yu has some connections in eyeliner in Shenjing. Taking the letter, Zhao Yu glanced at the intact lacquer on the seal and breathed a sigh of relief. He took a small knife from the side, scraped off the lacquer, and took out a secret letter from the letter. When he saw the content clearly, his eyes suddenly widened, and his handsome face showed an incredible expression. Marquis. Seeing Zhao Yu stay in place, Wang Pu was puzzled and called out in a low voice. Zhang Xiu on the side also looked curiously at Zhao Yu. Zhao Yu, who had come to his senses, handed the secret letter to Wang Pu and said with a bitter smile. Mr. Wenba, take a look. The information in this letter is really unbelievable. As she spoke, Zhao Yu rubbed her face fiercely with her hands, as if she had not yet recovered from the shock. After reading the confidential letter, Rao was as calm as Wang Pu, and at this moment, he was also somewhat shocked and unable to speak. Your Majesty was on a boat trip to Xuanwu Lake in Shiyuan when he accidentally stumbled and fell into the water. When he was rescued, the water choked on his lungs, and coupled with fear and palpitations, he fell ill with lung disease after returning to the palace. Since then, he has been bedridden. The imperial doctor has prescribed several prescriptions, but none of them have been effective. Instead, the illness has become increasingly severe. After struggling back and forth for half a month, finally. After reading the confidential letter, Wang Pu lifted his head and looked at Zhao Yu. Marquis, I have heard that there is a secret martial arts tradition in the royal family, even if you have achieved some success. Your Majesty passed away due to drowning. This is simply the most ridiculous thing in the world. Upon hearing these words, Zhao Yu's lips curved into a slight sneer. When I was young, I once heard my father mention this matter. The late emperor devoted all his attention to government affairs and had no time to take care of the harem. He handed over all the education of his children to the current Empress Dowager. Prior to this, the late emperor only had a princess and no son. Now that he has a son, both the late emperor and the current Empress Dowager consider it a treasure in their hands. The Empress Dowager was particularly unwilling to let him suffer, so His Majesty practiced martial arts for 3 days, fishing for half a month, and drying the net. As a result, who would have thought such a thing would happen? It can only be said that it's a return on return, planting whatever causes and results. Even the weakest third-level martial artist can master 1 or 2 of the lowest-level lightness skills. Drowning and dying is something that never happens to a martial artist unless there is premeditation. What is self-inflicted sin, unable to live? This is it. Speaking of which, Zhao Yu even felt a sense of pleasure in her heart. There is no other reason, only because the Wuzong lineage has been suppressed too harshly. Mr. Wenbo, with a smile on his lips, Zhao Yu leaned forward slightly and looked at Wang Pu, his eyes shining brightly. In your opinion, is there the handwriting of that great general in this matter? At this moment, is it the heavenly time in your mouth? Just as Zhao Yu received the news that the little Emperor Long Yu had returned to heaven, 1,000 miles away in the southwestern Miao region, General Huang Jingming of the auxiliary country also received the news from Xinjing. Why, Yiji, do you also think that this was done by me or not? Putting the brush in his hand on the pen holder of the desk, Huang Jingming turned around and smiled as he looked at the young man, his trusted advisor Wu Yiji, who hurried into the tent. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. The Gold-Casting Man Asks the Ghosts and Gods. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. The Gold-Casting Man Asks the Ghosts and Gods, Isn't it really Mingong's fault? As Wu Yiji looked at his benefactor who was still there, he took a deep breath and asked softly. As the confidant of General Huang, he knew the ambitious heart of his benefactor, but he never wanted to see the other party fall under the infamous name of regicide as a result. The initiator has no future. This precedent must not be set based on one's own benefactor. Huang Jingming stood up and solemnly arched his hand towards the direction of the Xinjing. Only then did he solemnly say, I, Huang Jingming, have been favored by the emperor for generations and have been entrusted with the important task of entrusting orphans by the late emperor. How can I do this rebellious act? Faced with Huang Jingming's answer, as a smart person, Wu Yiji did not continue to inquire, but instead bowed and said solemnly. Now that there is no one in charge of the country, and the Empress Dowager is an old woman in the deep palace, how much insight can she have? Today, with the death of the emperor, the world is in turmoil, and the safety and security of the country are all in the hands of the general. All the joys and sorrows of life are in the mind of Ming Gong. I hope the general can quickly decide on it. If it is too late, there will be changes. Wu Yiji's words are very clear. He hopes that Huang Fugua can take advantage of this matter to further advance. At that time, his prestige in the court will be unmatched. From Yi's perspective, who can establish himself as an emperor in the ancestral family of the Zhao family? The old man sitting on the desk seemed to ask casually. Everything is under the control of Ming Gong. Does that person in the palace dare to confront Ming Gong and not succeed? Wu Yiji bowed back and said. He is very clear about his positioning as a simple strategist. It's better for him not to get involved in this kind of thing. It would be great if you were half as slippery as Yiji, old master. Looking at Wu Yiji's expression of fearing to avoid him, Huang Fugua reached out and pointed at him, laughing and cursing. How can Yiji's identity be compared to that of a young master? Wu Yiji smiled and replied. All right, tell the generals in the camp to hold a meeting in the Central Army's tent tomorrow morning. Here. After Wu Yiji left the tent, Huang Jingming pondered for a while before finally getting up and walking towards the rear army where the craftsman camp was located. I've seen a general. Seeing Huang Jingming coming, a group of craftsmen quickly stood up to salute. You are all exempt from paying respects. After waving his hand to signal a group of craftsmen to stand up, Huang Jingming just asked, May I know if Mr. Tian is in the camp? A leading craftsman hurriedly said, Mr. Tian is working on crafting equipment at the back. Upon hearing these words, Huang Jingming's eyes lit up, wondering if that person had created some new type of weapon. At this moment, Huang Jingming stopped talking and waved his hand, walking directly towards the depths of the craftsman's camp. When. In the depths of the craftsman's camp, the sound of iron objects colliding echoed into Huang Jingming's ears. Opening the curtain, an old man in fur and brown floral armor was seen staring intently at the sword embryo in front of him, smashing his iron hammer onto it with each blow. Amidst the splashing of Mars, the sound of the hammer and sword embryo constantly colliding formed a passionate melody. Huang Jingming didn't bother, just stood by with his hands and waited quietly. The old man seemed unaware of Huang Jingming's arrival, still forging the sword embryo without lifting his head, not even changing the rhythm of his hammering. Until the old man threw the sword embryo back into the nearby pool, Huang Jingming finally spoke up. Jingming has met Brother Tian. Although he is a great general of a country, he dare not show any disrespect when facing the elderly in front of him. The old man surnamed Tian laughed heartily and handed the tools to the disciple beside him. After gesturing for them to leave, he said with a stern expression. Brother Jingming is very busy with personal matters. If he can come to my place today, he will definitely visit the Three Treasures Hall. Brother Jingming has a life-saving grace for me and a sense of preservation for the Mahist school. If you have any requests, feel free to ask. If Tian Weisheng can do it, he will not refuse. This elderly man surnamed Tian is none other than Tian Weisheng, the great master of the Mahist school of wandering knights. In the past, the great figure of the Mahist school was assassinated and died, leaving the Mahist school without a leader. Soon after, they were divided into three schools. The Wanderer School, the Debate School, and the Yushur School. The Yoxia faction has the strongest strength and has been jointly targeted by the Debate faction and the Yushur faction, resulting in heavy casualties. As a prominent figure in the Ranger faction, Tian Weisheng had no choice but to lead his disciples on the road of exile, and ultimately was surrounded by the Canglong River. At this critical moment, I was fortunate enough to be rescued by Huang Jingming and managed to escape a disaster. Afterwards, Tian Weisheng led a group of disciples into the state of Chu, becoming a hidden card in Huang Jingming's hand. The reason why Huang Jingming was able to achieve consecutive victories is not only due to his own military strategy, but also the support of the Mahist adventurous faction. Brother Tian is still so straightforward. Huang Jingming laughed heartily, without further ado, and directly explained the purpose of his visit. I have heard that there are secret methods to explore the will of heaven in every family. Tian Weisheng saw Huang Jingming's words, his eyes slightly fixed, and after a moment of contemplation, he said. To be honest with Brother Jingming, I do have this method in my hands. However, when I ask, has there been any incident in the Chu dynasty? Huang Jingming simply lowered his voice and said. I won't hide it from Brother Tian. Brother Tian didn't guess wrong. An urgent report came from the Xinjing side, stating that His Majesty passed away in the palace 2 days ago. Moreover, before His Majesty left, he did not leave any offspring. Your Majesty's death. That's why. A hint of clarity flashed through Tian Weisheng's murky eyes. Brother Jingming can inform me of the names of the eligible descendants of the royal family who are eligible to inherit the throne. I will cast their bronze statues overnight and use secret techniques to inquire about the true location of the dragon from heaven, earth, ghosts, and gods. Okay, let's follow what Brother Tian said. Huang Jingming nodded heavily. In the future, whether the fortunes of the Great Chu state will rise or fall, it will be handed over to Brother Tian. After speaking, he took out a piece of silk that had already been prepared and placed it in Tian Weisheng's hand. On this piece of silk, there are written the names of dozens of descendants of the royal family, and among them, the name of Zhao Yu is also prominent. I cast a bronze statue overnight and tomorrow noon, please prepare 3 livestock and 6 livestock for the general. After Huang Jingming left, one of Tian Weisheng's disciples walked into the camp and whispered in his ear. Juzi, why don't you tell the general that these secret methods, whether successful or not, will consume at least 10 years of your life, Juzi? Tian Weisheng shook his head slightly and said. A scholar who is a confidant dies, and the great general takes us in, allowing our family of adventurers to have a foothold. What kind of kindness is this? As a MO person, I am even more of a magnate, and I cannot do such a thing of taking credit in seeking revenge. Without further ado, let's start a fire. We are already busy tonight. The next morning. When Huang Jingming returned to the craftsman's camp, the first thing that caught his eye was dozens of half-human tall bronze statues. Under the morning sunlight, the bronze statue emitted a brilliant light. Brother Jingming, I am fortunate not to betray my fate. Seeing Huang Jingming coming, Tian Weisheng clasped his fists and said. Thank you very much, Brother Tian. Huang Jingming breathed a great sigh of relief in his heart. Have you ever prepared 3 livestock and 6 livestock? Tian Weisheng asked. All ready. Okay, it's not too late. I'll go to Mount Fuyu right now, pay homage to heaven, earth, ghosts, and gods, and ask about the true dragon. Not long after, Huang Jingming led his trusted generals and advisors, as well as a personal guard, carrying dozens of bronze statues, 3 sacrificial animals and 6 livestock, along with Tian Weisheng, towards the peak of Fuyu Mountain. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Heaven's destiny returns to you, nurturing pirates with self-reliance. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Heaven's destiny returns to you, nurturing pirates with self-reliance. Taibai Peak, the peak of Fuyu Mountain. Tian Weisheng instructed his disciples and soldiers to place bronze statues while chatting with Huang Jingming. Brother Jingming, last night my disciples and I stayed up all night and finally cast all the half-body bronze statues of these 20.9 people. The names of the royal family's descendants are engraved at the bottom of the statues. Brother Laotian worked hard all night, and he really felt guilty in his heart. Huang Jingming bowed and thanked Tian Weisheng. What did Brother Jingming say? Tian Weisheng furrowed his brows and looked a bit unhappy. If it weren't for Brother Jingming that day, my wandering hero lineage would have been completely wiped out by the other two. Such great kindness, Tian Weisheng should repay it wholeheartedly. As the two spoke, 20.9 imperial bronze statues had been placed in place, with 20 on the outer layer and 9 on the inner circle, resembling two concentric circles, one large and one small. At the center of the circles, a one-person-high altar was built, and a half-person-high bronze cauldron was placed. At noon, Tian Weisheng offered the 3 animals and 6 livestock that he had brought up to the mountain as sacrifices to Tian, and then said in a deep voice, "Please ask Brother Jingming to lead everyone away." After speaking, he walked alone to the altar and sat cross-legged, quietly waiting for the arrival of the 4th quarter of noon. "Here we go." As the sun rose above and the shadows shrouded, Tian Weisheng suddenly reached out and wiped his waist. A palm-sized and strangely shaped token appeared in his palm. Zhuzi Ling. The symbol of the great figure of the Mahist school. After finishing today's work, I have repaid most of Brother Huang's kindness. As a wandering hero glancing at Zhuzi Ling in his palm, Tian Weisheng made up his mind and without hesitation, bit his tongue. In the human body, there are 3 parts where fresh blood and yang energy are most abundant. Fingertip blood, tongue-tip blood, and finally heart blood. Among these 3 types of blood, the power of heart blood is the most domineering, but it is generally rarely used. The reason is twofold. Firstly, it is difficult to obtain, and secondly, the blood in one's heart is only used in emergency situations, which belongs to the method of killing 3,000 enemies and self-sacrificing 2,000. For Tian Weisheng, using the tripod to inquire about the heavens this time was just to repay Huang Jingming's kindness, so it was naturally impossible for him to have blood in his heart. As for fingertip blood, there was a slight suspicion of disrespect to the heavens in this situation, so tongue blood became the best choice for this adventurer and his family of giants. Puff. Tian Weisheng suddenly opened his mouth and a mouthful of blood mist sprayed onto Zhuzi Ling. The contact of blood mist with the matrix instantly absorbed the surface, followed by eerie patterns emerging one after another. Tian Weisheng, with a solemn expression on his face, jumped up and silently utilized his lifelong skills. He held a rectangular spear and stabbed at the bronze cauldron placed in the center of the altar. Tian dared to use the method of questioning the cauldron to inquire about heaven, earth, ghosts, and gods. Where is the true dragon of the Great Chu? Please provide inspiration. Prickle. Just as Tian Weisheng stabbed the bronze cauldron with a rectangular ring, he felt an indescribable electric charge, which shook back along the rectangular ring. At the same time, the onlookers suddenly felt a darkness in front of them. When they looked up, they found that at some point, a black cloud appeared, blocking out all the sunlight. Speaking slowly and quickly, everyone could only hear a thunderous sound in their ears, accompanied by a flashing white light, and their eyes suddenly turned white and vast. When everyone regained their sight, the scene in front of them surprised them greatly. The altar, which had been decorated with great effort, had become potholes. The 3 animals and 6 animals used for worship were all electrified into black charcoal blocks. On the ground, cracks 2 feet wide extended like spider webs in all directions, which was shocking. The 20.9 half-length bronze statues placed around the altar were also blown out by lightning from the sky, leaving almost none intact. Tian Weisheng, who used the secret techniques of the Mahist school to inquire about fate, was half kneeling on one side of the altar, emitting a white mist from the inside out, motionless like a statue. Brother Tian. Zhuzi. Accompanied by screams of surprise, Huang Jingming and Du Yunshan used their lightness skills and came to Tian Weisheng's side, reaching out to help the almost exhausted Mahist master. Cough. Tian Weisheng, whose face was as golden as paper, coughed a few times and spat out a mouthful of dirty blood with a hint of electricity. He took a deep breath and hoarsely said, "Old man, I'm fine. Brother Jingming, hurry up and find the most intact bronze statue. That one is the Great Chu true dragon. Thank you very much, Brother Tian." There will be a generous reward afterwards. Brother Du, take good care of Brother Tian. Upon hearing this, Huang Jingming raised his eyebrows slightly and scanned the surroundings with his narrow and long tiger eyes, only to find a relatively intact half-body bronze statue. Reaching out to wipe away the floating ash on the bronze statue, he did indeed see the name of the royal family's son under the base of the statue. Not only that, but lightning from the sky also exploded numerous cracks on the back of the statue. From a distance, these cracks looked like a phoenix spreading its wings and soaring. You know, the totem of De Chu is the phoenix. Looking at the two characters, Zhao Yu, engraved on the base of the bronze statue, Huang Jingming carried his hands on his back and remained silent. Zhao Yu. This fate coincides with what I had in mind. Anyway, let's just leave it to him. Anyway, the power of the court is in my hands, and it doesn't matter who sits in that chair. In the tent of the Central Army, dozens of generals and academies were wearing armor and sitting upright. Huang Jingming was extremely strict in governing the army, and even proud soldiers and fierce generals dared not attack him in front of this great general of the auxiliary country. With a loud bang, as the curtain of the military tent door was lifted, Huang Jingming entered the camp. Dozens of generals and academies stood up and clasped their fists together, saying, "I have never seen a general." Huang Jingming sat still in the handsome position, his hands slightly pressing down. "Everyone, please take a seat." Seeing the generals return to their respective positions, Huang Jingming coughed lightly and said, "I am gathering everyone today because there has been an incident in Xinjing. Yesterday, I received an urgent report that His Majesty passed away 2 days ago. The country has no ruler, and Xinjing is in turmoil. My intention is to calm the rebellion in the Miao region and lead my army back to Xinjing to stabilize the court situation. Lu Changfeng, Han Xiao. The end will come." Accompanied by the sound of armor leaf collision, the two generals whose names were called stood up one after another. "I'll give you 2 days to lead the troops of our headquarters and take down the Wujiapu. The bandit leader Wu Qingsheng wants to see people, and if he dies, he wants to see corpses. We must not let this scumbag run away." After that, Huang Jingming looked around at the generals and said, "After that, the army will rest for a day, and then return to Beijing." Huang Jingming led his army to suppress rebellion in the Miao region, and it has been more than half a year now. These rebels also bully the common people and ordinary soldiers. Faced with the Beijing garrison led by Huang Jingming himself, they were like pouring soup and pouring snow. They were beaten and retreated step by step, unable to form an army. In less than half a year, the massive rebellion in the Miao region, which affected the 3 counties, was suppressed to the point of scattered sparks, and Wujiapu was the last major stronghold of the rebels. As long as the Wujiabao is pulled out and the bandit leader Wu Qing is captured, the rebellion in the Miao region will be basically quelled. Here. 2 generals bow down to take orders. After explaining many matters related to the withdrawal of troops, Huang Jingming instructed the generals to disperse, leaving only Wu Yizhi and Fang Chao behind. Yizhi, everyone in the field inquired about the heavens with a tripod, causing a serious loss of vitality. Please instruct the logistics department to provide any natural resources and treasures. If everyone in the field needs them, you don't need to report them to me, just send them directly. In addition, I remember that the Duke of Angua's mansion is located in Qingzhou City, Taihe Prefecture, far from the Miao region. Yizhi, you ride my 1,000-mile horse and personally go there to tell the meaning of the little Marquis and General Ben. You are fully responsible for this matter. Huang Jingming looked at his capable strategist below his left hand. Wu Yizhi originally intended to open his mouth and refuse, but when he saw the slightly unfriendly gaze from his benefactor, he had to grit his teeth and agree. Alas, I am not good at riding horses. After this trip, I don't know how many blisters I will have on my thighs. Just the girls who have suffered from the drunken moon tower in the divine capital city, I guess I will have to wait until I cry, right? Ignoring Wu Yizhi's worried expression, Huang Jingming instructed Feng Chao on the other side. General Feng, take your team of guards with me and personally watch over Wu Cheng. Remember, I only want to die, not live. Feng Chao, although not the most powerful under Huang Jingming's command, was meticulous in his thinking. He was not as intelligent as he could fight, and he was not as intelligent as he could fight. In addition, he was personally promoted from the ranks by Huang Jingming, so he gained the trust of this auxiliary general. He and Wu Yizhi can be considered as Huang Jingming's right-hand men and confidants. Here. Feng Chao responded with a flat face and clasped his fists. Sitting across from him, Wu Yizhi glanced at Feng Chao and pursed his lips without speaking. If this honest man knew that Wu Cheng was actually a hidden weapon set by the general long ago, he wouldn't know what expression he would have. The next morning, shortly after Wu Yizhi left the camp on a 1,000-mile horse, a knight carrying a red flag also left the camp and rushed towards the direction of the Xinjing. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Actors don't divide us. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Actors don't divide us. Qingzhou City is the capital of Taihe Prefecture. Wu Yizhi sat on a 1,000-mile horse, looking at the pedestrians coming and going on the street, with a hint of contemplation in his eyes. Among the pedestrians, there were many wearing white scarves and some wealthy families hanging spiritual flags in front of their doors. When looking for a passerby to ask, Wu Yizhi only then realized that the people in this city were doing so, firstly to mourn the assassination of Duke of Angue Zhao Qin, and secondly to serve as a guardian for His Majesty. I didn't expect the Duke of Angue's mansion to be so popular in Qingzhou City. Although the old Marquis Zhao Qin died, the young Marquis Zhao Yu was still alive. However, this is not a bad thing for Duke Ming. Just from Qingzhou City alone, it can be seen that the hearts of the people in the world are still in the Zhao family, and it may not be time for Duke Ming to change the day. With this thought in mind, Wu Yizhi had already followed the instructions of the passers-by and arrived at the door of the Duke of Angue's mansion. Wu Yizhi dismounted and arched his hand towards the gatehouse, saying, "This young man, let's talk about the envoy of the Grand General of the Fu Kingdom, the military master offering wine, and the visit of Wu Yizhi, the Marquis of Puqing Pavilion." The gatekeeper was only 15 or 16 years old. Upon hearing this, he blinked and looked puzzled, saying, "Sir, I really can't remember so much." Wu Yizhi couldn't help but laugh and cry. He waved his sleeve and robe and said helplessly, "Go and talk to Marquis Angue, just say that the envoy of the Fugua General, Wu Yizhi, is visiting." On this side, Zhao Yu was chatting with Wang Pu in his study when he suddenly heard a report from the gatekeeper, saying that a deputy general envoy claiming to be Wu Yizhi was visiting. Wu Yizhi, a native of Ningjiang Prefecture, was a strategist under Huang Jingming's tent. He was skilled in strategizing and liked to joke. He often stayed at night in brothels without returning. Wang Pu said softly, "The Duke of Angue's mansion also has a group of spies in secret, responsible for investigating information externally." After Wang Pu arrived, Zhao Yu handed over all these people to him. Wang Pu instructed them to concentrate on searching for information about the courtiers, as well as the generals and advisors under General Huang's command. The news about Wu Yizhi is one of the achievements of these people today. Staying in the brothel at night. TSK, can we only say that many talented people have quirks? Zhao Yu looked up at Wang Pu. "Mr. Wang, is Wu Yizhi's arrival at this moment related to what Mr. Wang once said about heavenly timing? Huang Jingming's ability to ask the late emperor to assist him in politics shows that he was not a person without talent or wisdom, otherwise it would not have been possible to reach his current position. Wu Yizhi's ability to be favored by him is not mediocre. The fact that the general sent him at this time is likely related to the emperor's position. However, it is unknown whether the general even sent someone to contact other royal families." Wang Pu pondered and said, "No matter what, troops for the enemy, earth for floods. The Marquis will try to find out the other side's words for a while. Don't agree to the other side's terms easily. If it's really not possible, just push it here. Not long ago, the imperial decree was issued, and Zhao Yu officially inherited the title and became the new Marquis of Anghua. Therefore, Wang Pu, Zhang Xiu, and others naturally changed their names. The two of them discussed and agreed, so they let the lower house open the middle door to welcome the distinguished guest. Zhao Yu led Wang Pu to welcome Wu Yizhi into the central hall. After the two sides finished their salutes, they divided the guests and sat down. The maid offered fragrant tea, and Zhao Yu smiled and arched her hand, saying, "The young Marquis has met the Marquis of Puchington. The Marquis of Puchington is here today, which truly makes the Marquis's mansion shine brightly." Where, the little Marquis is joking. I haven't congratulated the little Marquis on achieving his wish yet. Wu Yizhi laughed heartily and raised the tea cup in his hand to Zhao Yu. He then drank it all with his head up, put down the tea cup, and casually touched the maid standing beside him, causing everyone in the hall to glare angrily. Zhao Yu lowered her wine glass heavily and said coldly, "Mr. Wu, please be cautious. Also, our Duke of Anghua's mansion is not a Chu mansion brothel. Please take it seriously, Mr. Wu." Upon hearing this, Wu Yizhi gave Zhao Yu a sideways glance. "Does the Marquis not know that I am the envoy of the general? Is it because the Marquis is not afraid of the general blaming me? I'm afraid, the Grand General holds a high position of power. How can I not be afraid? But being afraid doesn't mean that I have to swallow everything in silence." Zhao Yu lowered his voice and said, "Do you believe it, Mr. Wu? Before the Grand General takes the head of me, you won't be able to leave my Anghua Marquis' mansion, sir." Wu Yizhi stared at Zhao Yu for a while before laughing heartily and saying, "The Marquis of Anghua is indeed a heroic young man, no wonder he managed to escape from those assassins' hands. Old Marquis Chuanxia knows, so he should close his eyes. I apologize to Marquis for his words just now, and I hope he doesn't take it to heart." After speaking, he bowed deeply to Zhao Yu. Wu Yizhi felt a bit depressed in his heart. He never expected that in the face of his own probing, the other party would directly lift the table, and even threaten him in the opposite direction. Why are young people so angry now? He, Wu Yizhi, is timid and dare not gamble on whether the other party will actually use a knife to attack him. It's better to decisively admit his cowardice. However, this Marquis' temperament was at least explored by him. "Mr. Wu's apologies, I have accepted them," Zhao Yu said calmly. "Please come straight to the point, Mr. Wu. I have always disliked twists and turns, so Mr. Wu just said so. If Mr. Wu is a distinguished guest, then there will naturally be fine wine and food to entertain him. If he is an evil guest, then don't blame me for taking out the swords, bows, and arrows thrown in the warehouse." Cough. Wu Yizhi coughed lightly and took the opportunity to ease his emotions before saying, "Lord Marquis also knows that a few days ago, Your Majesty suddenly passed away in the palace without leaving any imperial heirs, leading to rumors and turmoil in the court and the public. Lord Marquis, you are young and decisive, with heroic spirit. The general is planning to support Lord Marquis as the emperor, and I don't know what Lord Marquis' intentions are." Sure enough. Zhao Yu calmly exchanged a glance with the target Wang Pu. Wu. The next second, Zhao Yu suddenly changed her face, covered her face with sleeves, and burst into tears. "Marquis, you." The scene before him made Wu Yizhi dumbfounded in an instant. What kind of medicine does this Duke of Anghua sell in his gourd? Zhao Yu waved her hand and sobbed, saying, "I couldn't help but feel sad when I remembered Your Majesty's kindness. Unfortunately, Your Majesty passed away that day, and I wished I could replace him with my own body. Mr. Wu, I am deeply saddened and unable to discuss matters. I am truly sorry. Mr. Wang, I have entrusted all matters discussed with Mr. Wu to you." Before she could finish speaking, Zhao Yu covered her face with long sleeves and burst into tears as she turned around and stumbled towards the inner hall, giving Wu Yizhi no time to react. At the same time, Wang Pu, who was sitting next to him, had already stood up. "Mr. Wu, Wang Pu and Wang Wenba, are you polite in this room?" Joke, Emperor Wuzong's lineage secretly hates the current emperor and the Empress Dowager with gritted teeth. Why use his own body to deceive someone like Wu as a child? And those tears, I'm afraid they were also stimulated by garlic water, right? In response, Wu Yizhi, while roast about Zhao Yu's poor acting skills, stood up and saluted Wang Pu. At the moment when their eyes met, Wu Yizhi suddenly had a premonition in his heart that the dignified and easy-going middle-aged man across from him would probably be the most difficult opponent he would encounter on this trip. A crescent moon slowly rises to the mid-sky, and the night envelopes the entire city of Qingzhou. In the study, watching Wang Pu push the door and enter, Zhao Yu personally brewed a cup of tea and placed it in front of Wang Pu's table, smiling. "Sir, thank you for your hard work. I wonder how the discussion with Mr. Wu ended today." "Thank you very much, Marquis." After thanking Zhao Yu, Wang Pu sat down and drank the tea in one gulp, then said. Fortunately, he lived up to his fate. However, Wu Yizhi is a talented person with exceptional intelligence. With his assistance, planning to support the country's general may cause some setbacks. After reminding Zhao Yu, Wang Pufang then explained the results of the negotiations with Wu Yizhi to Zhao Yu one by one. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. General, please send troops to guard. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. General, please send troops to guard. After listening to the agreement reached between Wang Pu and Wu Yizhi, Zhao Yu closed her eyes and pondered, rhythmically tapping the table with her left little finger. This is a habit he has developed in his past life and has also been brought over. Wang Pu didn't rush either, drinking tea quietly on the side. The recent verbal altercation with Wu Yizhi also cost him a great deal of effort. Because the general had an absolute advantage on his side, he almost broke through his lip and managed to secure several favorable conditions for Zhao Yu. The content of the agreement is also very simple. General Huang Jingming of the auxiliary country did his best to push Zhao Yu onto the throne of the emperor. Whether it was pressure from the court or the Empress Dowager, it was all resolved by the general's side, and Zhao Yu did not need to put any effort into it. But as a reward, first of all, Zhao Yu, who became the emperor, should bestow upon Huang Jingming, the great general of the auxiliary country, the title of prince and the commander of various military forces both domestically and internationally, in recognition of his contributions. Secondly, everyone under Huang Jingming's command needs to be promoted. Finally, Zhao Yu needs to marry Huang Zixin, the daughter of Huang Jingming, as the Empress Dowager. Commander-in-Chief of all military forces at home and abroad, including the Presidential Guard and local armies, he is the highest military commander in the country with great power. Although Huang Jingming was entrusted by the late emperor as a great general of the auxiliary country, the 12 battalions stationed in Kyoto Prefecture in the capital city, as well as the Imperial Guard guarding the palace, were not within his command. Now that he holds the position of Commander-in-Chief of Military Affairs at home and abroad, it is only natural for Huang Jingming to extend his hand to the Imperial Guard. Surprisingly not the Queen. Zhao Yu opened her eyes and asked this question. Marquis, Wu Yizhi originally had this plan, but it was rejected by Wei Qin. Without paying much attention to the changes in Wang Pu's title, Zhao Yu became curious about the reasons for Wang Pu's refusal. Wei Qin told Mr. Wu that the Marquis had made a vow in front of the old Marquis's tomb that if the culprit who killed him and others is not found, he will never marry. After listening to Wang Pu's reasons, Zhao Yu became even more curious. Wu Yizhi is also a talented person. He wouldn't be fooled by you so easily, sir, would he? Although the founding of the Great Chu dynasty was based on loyalty and filial piety, as a rational political creature, the oath is no different from toilet paper. It can be picked up when needed and thrown away whenever needed. Wang Pu smiled and said. Of course not. In fact, what impressed me was that everyone under the command of the Grand General was promoted to 2 levels, and Mr. Wu himself received an additional reward of 1,000 gold. Of course, I also promised him that Lord Marquis, you will never establish another empress before avenging your father. With the 3-pronged approach, Mr. Wu was relieved. Mr. Wang handled this matter perfectly. Zhao Yu nodded. It can be said that if it weren't for Wang Pu's mediation, Huang Jingming, as a powerful minister, wanted to appoint his daughter as the empress. Then, as an almost puppet emperor, he would have to hold his nose and agree. Therefore, taking a step back, it is acceptable for Zhao Yu to appoint Huang Jingming's daughter as the Empress Dowager. In this way, if one really manages to overthrow this powerful minister in the future, there is no need to go through the process of deposing the empress. Marquis, I am afraid of any unexpected changes on my way to the capital. I have specially requested Mr. Wu to dispatch a cavalry from the general's office to protect Marquis' safety. Wang Pumo added a sentence. Sir, do you think there will be an accident on the way to Beijing? Faced with Zhao Yu's doubts, Wang Pu nodded. Zhao Yu still quite agreed with Wang Pu's judgment and immediately called Zhang Xiu in. Yue, how are the guards in the mansion training now? Zhang Xiu's face showed a hint of guilt as she lowered her head and said. Embroidery is entrusted by the Marquis, but in these days, only about 50 elite and skilled hands have been trained. How does it compare to those assassins that day? The only ones Zhao Yu can use as a reference now are those assassins. I'm only 1 point ahead of those assassins, barely able to defeat them by 2 or 3. Speaking of which, Zhang Xiu's head was lowered even lower. According to his ideas, the strength of these guards simply does not meet the standards in his heart. Not to mention benchmarking against the Flying Bear Army, at least half of the strength of the Flying Bear Army is needed to be worthy of the Marquis' favor. However, the strength of these guys is at most 1/3 of that of the Flying Bear Army. Since I took over the protection of the royal palace, the Marquis has always wanted people to give money to people. He never hesitated to agree to his demands without hesitation. As a result, I have developed so many crooked melons and cracked dates myself. This made Zhang Xiu feel extremely guilty in her heart, feeling that she had let down Zhao Yu's respect for him. These 50 elite guards, along with ordinary soldiers and cavalry sent by Huang Jingming, are enough to escort him to Xinjing. However, looking at Zhang Xiu's expression, it was obvious that she had misunderstood her meaning, but Zhao Yu did not say it. Instead, she stood up and patted Zhang Xiu's shoulder, saying with warmth. These days, Yue has really worked hard. After all, time is still short. Being able to train the guards in the mansion to this level shows Yue's dedication. This is not Yue's fault, but actually my lord's fault. After hearing Zhao Yu's words, Zhang Xiu's tiger eyes immediately moistened, and she secretly made up her mind to improve the strength of these guards in the shortest possible time. Ding, Zhang Xiu's loyalty +7, intimacy +300. Not bad, this goal is definitely achievable within a year. Glancing at the system prompt, Zhao Yu breathed a sigh of relief in her heart. Finally, Zhang Xiu's loyalty was raised to 93 points, while Wang Pu's loyalty was only 2 or 3 points short of reaching 90 points. Sir, tell Yue the whole story. Zhao Yu sat back in the chair and said to Wang Pu with a smile. At this point in time, some things also need to be confessed to Zhang Xiu. What? Upon hearing Zhao Yu's words, Zhang Xiu, whose head was full of question marks, turned her gaze to Wang Pu on the side. Brother Yue, the situation is like this. Wang Pu explained the ins and outs of it to Zhang Xiu in detail, and when Zhao Yu felt a bit apologetic, he added another sentence. I and Mr. Wenba did not tell Yue about this matter because it is of great significance. Please understand more. In Zhao Yu's heart, only Wang Pu and Zhang Xiu were trustworthy and capable of making great use of their subordinates. It was a bit unfair to keep such things from his confidants. Unexpectedly, upon hearing these words, Zhang Xiu clenched her fists and said with a straight face. Marquis' statement is a big fallacy. Don't you hear that? If you don't keep it a secret, you'll lose your subjects. If you don't keep it a secret, you'll lose your body. If you don't keep it a secret, you'll end up causing harm. This matter concerns Marquis' life and family. You can't ignore it, you must be cautious. Yue, no, I have no complaints in my heart. Yue's words deeply resonate with me. Zhao Yu nodded in agreement. Zhang Xiu was indeed a young man, and after a word of advice, she asked with a hint of excitement. Can Yue be called Your Majesty now? Unexpectedly, before Zhang Xiu could finish speaking, Wang Pu, who was originally sitting on the side, suddenly changed his expression. Yue, be cautious and beware of trouble coming out of your mouth. Sir, what does this mean? Zhang Xiu's voice was slightly dissatisfied. Although he had great respect for Wang Pu, Zhang Xiu felt a bit displeased when the other party scolded him in front of the Marquis, no, Your Majesty, for not giving him face. To be honest, he knows His Majesty even more than Wang Pu in the morning. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Not proud, not making mistakes, are those still young people? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Not proud, not making mistakes, are those still young people? Looking at Zhang Xiu, who was struggling with her neck, Wang Pu not only felt angry but also a bit amused. Among the three of them, Zhao Yu and Zhang Xiu are both in their 20s, and only she is a middle-aged person in her early 30s. Wang Pu himself also came from a young age, naturally knowing what the characteristics of young people are. As the saying goes, youthful vigor. But if it's not impressive, is that still called a young person? But understanding comes from understanding. As an elderly person, I still need to advise these two people not to let them go astray. General Zhang, may I ask if the Marquis has ascended the throne now? As soon as Zhang Xiu said this, her eyebrows gradually furrowed. He's not a fool, he seems to have picked up some meaning from Wang Pu's words. It seems that General Zhang also knows that the Marquis has not yet ascended the throne, and even the imperial court has not issued an edict to allow him to succeed. The Marquis has just reached some agreement with the Grand General. If General Zhang's title of Your Majesty is spread outside and is known by the Grand General or the Empress Dowager, will the Grand General have some other thoughts? Will the Empress Dowager think that the Marquis is an ambitious person, or even think that it is the Marquis, or that the Duke of Anghua's mansion has killed His Majesty? Although this logic may seem a bit ridiculous to you and me, don't forget that the Empress Dowager is a woman, and even more so, a woman who has just experienced the pain of losing her son. Women are usually unreasonable, especially those who lose their rationality. If the Empress Dowager intervenes in this, it will bring countless twists and turns in vain. General Zhang, you just advised the Marquis, saying, if you don't keep it confidential, you'll lose your subjects. If you don't keep it confidential, you'll lose your body. If you don't keep it a few times, you'll end up causing harm. How could you forget this sentence in the blink of an eye? If you and I break the Marquis' plan because of our words, then it is truly unforgivable. At the end, Wang Pu was already speaking fiercely. Drips of cold sweat rolled down from Zhang Xiu's temples and eyebrows, and he struggled to open his mouth. Embroidery. Before speaking, Zhao Yu smiled and waved his hand to interrupt. Sir, don't be too harsh on General Zhang. As a young person, if you don't make mistakes, is that still a young person? It's just Yue, please remember your advice to me. Whatever you do, confidentiality should be the top priority. Yue must remember what the Marquis and Sir said. Zhang Xiu said this sentence with a heart full of joy and sincerity. Okay, let's put an end to this matter. Zhao Yu turned the conversation and looked at Wang Pu, saying, please tell Yue about your concerns, sir. Sir, is it highly likely that we will be ambushed on our way to Beijing? Zhang Xiu, who had calmed down again, showed a puzzled expression on her face. The Marquis was ordered by the imperial court to ascend to the throne and become the Grand Marshal. Who would dare to take action against them at this time? Ordinary people naturally dare not, but do Marquis still remember the assassins who killed old Marquis? Wang Pu didn't answer the rhetorical question. Sir, what do you mean by Empress Xuanda's side? Zhao Yu and Zhang Xiu exchanged a glance and coincidentally thought of the Empress Dowager in the palace city. Wang Pu nodded. On the Empress Dowager's side, there is both motivation and courage. Zhao Yu is from the lineage of Emperor Wuzong. If he ascends to power, he is likely to suppress and retaliate against the royal family of Emperor Renzong. Empress Dowager Xuanda can be said to be the first to bear the brunt. Moreover, as a mother who had lost her child and also lost her sanity, Empress Dowager Xuanda dared not underestimate her retaliatory mentality. In the face of such a big event, Wang Pu dare not gamble. If the Marquis really had an accident on his way to Beijing, wouldn't the Empress Dowager be afraid of the general's retaliation? Zhang Xiu's mind was filled with doubts. General Zhang, the relationship between the Marquis and the Grand General is just a matter of cooperation. Who would seek revenge for a deceased partner? With so many royal families in the Great Chu dynasty, if the Marquis has an accident, why not find another one? At most, it is difficult to control it. But if we want to inherit the Grand General, the Empress Dowager is an insurmountable obstacle. Therefore, the Grand General will not turn against the Marquis and the Empress Dowager. The court needs stability, and more importantly, dignity. Wang Pu saw very clearly that compared to the two sides of the general, they clearly needed the power of the general more. In his eyes, Zhao Yu could only ascend to the supreme throne with the support of the general. On the side of the general, it doesn't matter who is chosen as the emperor, the only difference is the difficulty of controlling. So, be prepared for no harm, Zhao Yu said with a bitter smile. Besides the private soldiers of the Marquis' mansion, before leaving, I will visit the government office of Taihe Prefecture again and have Taihe Prefecture send troops to escort me. This is actually a solution. Wang Pu nodded. Marquis, don't forget to go to the imperial tomb for worship before entering the capital. Worshipping the imperial tomb is the most important step before the emperor ascends the throne. Only after worshipping a group of ancestors can one be considered recognized by their ancestors, qualified to inherit the will of heaven, inherit the mandate of heaven, worship the blood and food of the ancestral temple, and govern the people of the Great Chu. In addition, the meeting place discussed by Wang Pu and Wu Yizhi was also near the imperial tomb. I know, Zhao Yu said, glanced at the two of them, reached out and rubbed the center of her eyebrows, with a troubled expression on her face. If I were just a marquis, then Wang Pu and Zhang Xiu would still be useful in both literature and martial arts. However, I am about to become the emperor of Great Chu and secretly compete with the powerful general of the supporting country. If it's just these two people, it's still too thin. As the saying goes, one hero has three helpers. We are about to enter the capital soon, and I wonder if there are any wise talents recommended to me by the two of you. Zhao Yu pondered for a moment, but ultimately spoke up and asked. Zhang Xiu frowned and pondered for a while, but finally shook her head. Returning to Marquis, I have been devoted to training my soldiers these days and have not discovered any great talents. Seeing Zhao Yu's gaze fixed on him, Wang Pu hesitated to speak. Zhao Yuqi said, Sir, do you have any unspoken secrets? Marquis, although I have a candidate in my heart, this person is a distant relative of me, so I feel a bit hesitant. No wonder Wang Pu hesitated. If it were his own family who recommended talents to the Marquis for the first time, what would Zhao Yu think? Wang Pu is cautious, which is why he hesitates. Zhao Yu smiled and said, as the old saying goes, I don't avoid relatives when I hold an internal position, and I don't avoid enemies when I hold an external position. When I use people, I use his talent, not because he is a relative of anyone. If I were really a great sage, I wouldn't have had time to be happy. How could I blame my master? At the same time, Zhao Yu became increasingly curious. Who is the talent that Wang Pu wants to recommend to him? Seeing Zhao Yu say so, Wang Pu let go of his worries and glanced at Zhang Xiu without leaving a trace before saying. The person mentioned by Wei Chen is Wang Xiongdan, Wei Chen's distant cousin. My cousin was not fond of reading since childhood, but only liked to dance with guns and sticks. He is quite brave and skilled in archery and horse riding. He can serve as a pawn in front of the Marquis' tent. Upon hearing that Wang Pu had recommended a martial artist, Zhang Xiu immediately became curious. Are you skilled in archery and horsemanship? I wonder if your cousin's martial arts skills are superior or inferior to those of Yu Wei, sir. General Zhang is naturally skilled in martial arts. Wang Pu smiled and arched his hand at Zhang Xiu. Upon receiving the desired response, Zhang Xiu felt quite happy and didn't say much. At the same time, a line of small characters also appeared in Zhao Yu's field of vision. Wang Pu wants to recommend the birthday of his clan member Wang Xiong. Do you accept it? Wang Xiongdan, where do you think you've heard of this name before? Just as Zhao Yu was pondering, rows of small characters appeared in his field of vision, vividly introducing Wang Xiongdan's life. Wang Xiongdan, a fierce general in the late Sui and early Tang dynasties, was the adopted son and general of Du Fuwei. Force 83, Commander 85, Military Strategy 86, Political Strategy 59, Wisdom 79, Literature 65, Charm 84, Morality 83, Ambition 21, Age 24, Loyalty 95, coming from a humble family, Personality. Decisive. Feature 1, Blood-Bathing Guard. When guarding important figures, Wang Xiong's strength increases by 10. Feature 2, Intelligent and Brave. When fighting against a general in battle, use +5 force, when giving advice, military strategy +3, wisdom +3. Feature 3, Du's Twin Heroes. If Wang Xiong is employed in the court, there is a probability that he will recommend Can Leng, and the probability of recommendation is related to his own loyalty. If two people are in court at the same time, then Wang Xiong gave birth to 6 dimensions +3. As she hurriedly scanned, Zhao Yu couldn't help but feel a surge in her heart. What a hexagonal warrior! Apart from political strategy, the other 5 main attributes are basically all 80%, and I am also a bodyguard-type talent. Although Zhao Yu was happy in her heart, her face remained calm and she pondered for a moment before saying. As the saying goes, dragons do not dwell with snakes. Wang Xiongdan is highly valued by his master, and he is considered extremely outstanding. It would be better for him to write a handwritten letter to the divine capital and let him go directly to the Forbidden City. With his abilities, it is not a problem to join the guard. As he spoke, Zhao Yu stood up and took a finger-long seal from the bookshelf. This is a duplicate seal carved by my late father when I was young. Please send it along with it, sir. If you want to contact me, please use this seal as evidence. Marquis, you're good at planning. Wang Pu and others immediately understood Zhao Yu's meaning and respectfully took the seal with both hands. Please rest assured, Marquis. I will definitely send this seal along with the letter. Marquis values him so much, how dare my cousin not give his all? Zhao Yu nodded and then turned around to look out the window. Next, we only need to wait for the imperial decree to be issued before we can set off to enter the capital. End of this chapter.